Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Irish Health Hour Chats. Delighted to have on our guest today, Brian Keane, a health and fitness expert. Brian has published his first book, which is due to be released very soon, and he's going to be referring it to it a lot today. And what I love about what Brian does is he really brings mindset into the whole fitness and health regime, because I think sometimes that is an area that we sometimes overlook. So I'm going to let Brian introduce himself, and I'm going to let him read his story through his answers, basically. So Brian, you're so welcome. And I'd love to start off with just asking you the question, mindset. Fair play to you for introducing it into your work, because I think it's an area where it lacks sometimes. Can you tell us about the journey through how you started introducing mindset? And is it something that you started off with yourself?
So again, thanks again for having me on. But the kind of the reason that mindset came into it was largely down to my own kind of background. I grew up in Connemara in the west of Ireland, and I spent a lot of time abroad. I moved to California and I was living there for a year, and then I moved to London, working as a trainer and a fitness coach, basically in London, working with people in the parks and in gyms. And what was happening with the mindset side of things and where it came about was I was working with a lot of clients, and I've been very fortunate with the amount of people I've worked with over the last few years. But when people would come through my programs, or people I'd be working with, they would come off the back of 6-week transformations or 8-week transformations, and then they would get a great before and after picture, and then they would actually go off, their nutrition or off their training program, and then they'd be back to nearly square one, and then they were coming in through my program or working with me. And it was a case that the book came about in terms of, I named it The Fitness Mindset, was largely down to the fact that to get in better shape, all we have to do is there's not a lot of rules we have to follow. We have to exercise more and eat better. But what happens with a lot of people is the mindset sabotages them, and they haven't created the long-term habits, or they haven't found a strong enough why, or they haven't built it into their lifestyle so that the way that they eat just becomes, they make the right automatic choice in terms of, well, this food is going to be better for me here. It's one I enjoy and it fits into my lifestyle and schedule. Or this training program I spoke about, that there's the different training programs that are going to be better for different people. If you love running, then building a program around running is going to work great for you. If you love swimming, then doing that as your cardio is going to work tremendously well for you. And the mindset side of things is largely down to making the right choices and knowing that when you live a certain lifestyle and you train or you work, you make better choices with food and better choices with fitness and training, you're basically just building the mindset on top of it so that you can stick at it long term, and it's not a 6-week transformation or an 8-week transformation. It becomes something that gets woven into your lifestyle, and the mindset side of that is all down to the self-sabotage, the anxiety, stress, cortisol, all of these things that I've dealt with myself, and I've worked with clients down the psychology side of things, and being able to basically keep people on track long term so that they don't go through, say, my program, for example, or anyone else's program, and they fall off after 6 or 8 weeks because they've got the before and after. So that's kind of where the mindset side all came in, because it's great to get into amazing shape and to do the nutritional strategy or do the fitness program, but it's getting into great shape and keeping it, or just being healthier, fitter, or just whatever that great shape looks like for you. That may be mentally better, where you have more energy and you can be more present with your family and you're not tired in the evenings. Mm-hmm. That may be what better shape looks like for you. But having that mindset and making sure that you have built all the strategies in place, your habits, you're finding your why, dealing with anxiety, dealing with stress, dealing with worry, all of these things that can self-sabotage you, I found was having a very, very negative effect on the people I was working with. So I wrote the book effectively for them. They say, write the book you want to read. So a lot of it is speaking to a younger me, and trying to help anyone that's on that path themselves, that just basically want to make sure that their mindset is stronger so they can go and set out targets, set out goals, achieve them, and then have the mindset to keep it long term.
I love that. I really do. It's great. And you talk about finding your why, because I just think that's an exercise that it's just it's one I weave into my work as well, because it's when you really come from our core essence, what we really want, why we're doing it, really why we're doing what we do, that we can really achieve goals. Isn't that right? I just love that exercise. So, you mentioned there as well about as well as about finding our why, it's setting goals. How do you, do you advise people, or is it different for everyone? Do you advise people to set one big goal and then have little goals to get there, or do you like to pivot and change, or what's your view on all the whole goals?
it really depends on most things. It's going to be down to a bit of self-awareness on what works best for each person. But for the majority of people, and I spoke this in the book, and I talked about how to find your why, setting goals, and then working towards it. What I found has worked really, really well for a majority of people is having the end in mind. Like I love Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he talks about in that book, finding your why. And it was one of the inspirations for me writing that section of the book in terms of always having the end in mind. And working towards that. So I always say to people that I work with, I'm like, you can't hit a target you can't see. And that's relative what that may look like for you. That may be, dropping a couple of dress sizes. That may be getting abs for the beach. That may be having more energy to play with your kids in the evening. That may be setting up a side job so you've got something on the side on top of your normal work 9 to 5. Whatever that looks like for you, if you can't see the target, it's very, very hard to hit it. So in terms of setting goals, having the end in mind makes decision making a lot easier. And I spoke about in the book again, and I'll use that as context. Yeah, sure. I have my whiteboards in my room that I use, and personally what works for me is I have 1-year goals, 5-year goals, and 10-year goals. Now they change, and again you'll pivot, and you'll never know how you're going to get there. But once you set the target, and whether you work through, believing that the universe will give you everything you want, or you believe in the neuroscience and the reticular activation system, that your body has an internal GPS and it'll work towards, because we're goal-seeking creatures, whatever philosophy you tend to buy into, I've found that once you have that end in mind and you know what decision you want, or what life or body or job or whatever it is that you want, when you have that end in mind, all the decisions you make then become very, very easy, because the decisions you make are based on that end goal. I know myself, and I talked about in the book, my end goal is to be my go-to person for my daughter. My daughter is 2. My mum was my go-to person for me. Anytime anything ever went bad in my life, or subjectively bad in my life, or I was feeling low or anxious or depressed or whatever it was, my mum was always there for me. And my end goal has always been to be that person for my daughter. So the decisions I make day on day are being present with her, and making sure that I get to spend a little bit of time every single day with her, and that we get to spend our weekends as daddy-daughter, and we get all these things because it works with the end goal. But it doesn't matter what that end goal, as I spoke on in the book, if it's to get into better shape, or to get a stronger mindset, to deal with your anxiety, to deal with your stress, to deal with worry. As long as you know what the end goal is, that I want us to have more energy, I want to feel less stressed, I don't want to be as anxious. Once you know what that is, you can start putting plans in place every single day to move towards that. And I found in some capacity with the majority of people, some outline that may look differently. Again, the goals may be different, the timeline may be different, but the actual step-by-step process of knowing what the end is and having that in mind and then doing it every single day is normally what I found has worked tremendously well for most people in terms of achieving whatever it is they want to achieve, and whatever that looks like for each individual person.
That's great. So being really clear, I suppose, what the end goal is. Well, as you say, your overall one, which is a lovely one, to be there for your daughter, and then to make the small steps every day. Yeah, that's all great. And of course, then when it comes to, like, you're a mine of information then on everything to do with health and nutrition, because I listen to some of your podcasts, and I just have to say, I will put up a link obviously to them, because they're so motivational. Fair play to you for giving such value to people. It's great, and you have guests on, but the information that you actually give is I learned a lot by listening to the few of them I did, and I'm definitely going to be subscribing and listen to more.
Brilliant.
But it's very honestly the way you talk as well. It's not like just a one size fits all. And I also actually saw you advising. You were up in Sligo. I saw a YouTube video. And someone was asking about supplements, and you just said to me, "I think you're too young for supplements." Honesty. I think that's always great to see in someone that's, you're not trying to sell us something. Yes, of course, at the end of the day, if we have a product, we're selling it. But like, you're selling, you're giving so much good advice to us that you're so, we know what you're saying is so true, because the path that you're doing it, if you know what I mean, you're doing it in such a wonderful way and sharing such great information. And I loved the fact that you just talked about, it being so personal to everyone, even supplements, that everyone doesn't need to take supplements, let's say.
No, exactly. Well, the thing is, if there was only one training program or one nutritional strand or one supplement that worked for everybody would take that, and they'd look the way they wanted to look, or they'd have more energy, or they'd have whatever the end goal was. Everyone is wired so differently. It's why, again, and I count myself, I'm so I have a fullness of gratitude that hits me every morning, that I get to do what I get to do, and I'm very, very fortunate that I get to make a living doing what I do. And the videos I make, the podcasts I make, the Q&As that I do. That's all stuff I would do if I had 10 million euro in the bank. I would scale it up, and I'm very fortunate. If I won the lotto tomorrow, I'd still be doing everything that I'm doing, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So to be able to be able to provide value to people on top of that is, again, it's my own personal why from the universe side of things. But in terms of people thinking, oh, this is the supplement you need to use, or this is the nutritional strategy, or this is the training program, there are ones, and the truth is there's loads of different ones that will work for different people. The best training program, the best nutritional strategy, and the best supplement plan are going to be ones that are in alignment with your specific goals, that fit into your lifestyle and that work within your schedule and that work for you. If you're somebody that can't get to the gym in the morning because you've got 2 kids at home, you need to get them ready for school, and you can only go for 20 minutes in the evening or in your bedroom at home, then you do a high intensity workout at home because that's what fits into your schedule. So for you, that's the best thing that you're doing. If you're an athlete that's trying to break into your county team, and I work with a lot of high-end GA athletes and club people, and if you're trying to break into your inter-county pound, you may need a little bit more time dedicated towards your recovery. You may need a little bit more time dedicated towards your strength work and then your pinch work. So it's not a case of, well, this is the one size that fits everybody. It's about finding, well, this is what I want to achieve, and then building your lifestyle, your schedule, and your program and your plan around that.
Wonderful. It's absolutely great. And I also see that you work with the GA. I'm a huge GA fan myself. And I go to all my son's matches, which sometimes has me, the 2 of them play hurling, so I can be on the side of GA pitches quite a lot some weeks.
Yeah, brilliant.
I absolutely love it. So yeah, Brian, we're talking about the GA there, and your involvement and all you do. It's great.
So I grew up in a GA family, so it's something that's very, very close to my heart. For me personally, I've been playing football since the age of 6, and with the exception of a 2-year break, I traveled the world. I went down into competing bodybuilding and fitness modeling. I traveled the world for 2 years. That was with the exception of those 2 years. I played from the age of 6 to now. I still play with my club, and I'm very, very fortunate to be able to give back to the players, working at county level, working at club level. Younger people, I've had a lot of 15, 16, 17-year-olds following me. I worked with the Galway Miners. They got the All-Ireland final last year. So I've had a big, I've been very lucky to have a lot of involvement with that network of people and those level of athletes. Again, purely the reason I give out so much videos and stuff on the GA content is because there was nothing like that when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And that's all I wanted to know. Like, I wanted to know, well, how should I eat before a game? Or what kind of training program should I be doing in the gym? Should I be lifting weights at 15 or 16? Should I be taking supplements at 14? You know, all these things that we just don't know. So I'm very fortunate to be in a position to be able to answer those questions and then basically be that person or provide value to that community. Because I didn't have it myself. So I'm very, very lucky and very fortunate to be able to give back to that community now.
We're very fortunate that you're there to give us those resources, because I just think they're wonderful. And I'm definitely going to be getting my son to log on. And you're on Snapchat too, which me being the uncool mom isn't on, but I definitely have to get Snapchat. So you do a lot on Instagram as well. You do Instagram videos you share there. Is that the same content you share on your podcast, just so people know, or is it a separate?
No, I actually do different content on all my platforms. So the only thing that overlaps is sometimes I'll overlap a Facebook Live and an Instagram Live Q&A. My Snapchat content is different. My podcast is completely original to the actual podcast. And then my Instagram and my Facebook, I put up different content on different platforms. Purely because obviously you can do different things on different platforms. You have a time limit on Instagram for your videos. You have your 15 seconds on your Snapchat. So it's very lends itself brilliantly to quick fire Q&A questions. Podcasts, I can do a lot more long form and get into more depth with topics. So I try and kind of speak native language to different platforms depending on what they allow you to do. So I've been lucky to kind of build up a following on most things because I put different things on different platforms.
That's great. So I put up all the links anyway to your another thing I want to ask you quickly about too is about sleep. You talk a lot about sleep and the importance of getting a good night's sleep in relation to, I suppose, all of our life anyway. But the difference, actually, I found it interesting where I actually get very tired at 11:15, and it's one of the times that you actually, and that's the time I go to bed, it's about 11:15, 11 o'clock, because I just obviously I'm listening to my body and I didn't even realize it. But sometimes you said if you sleep the same, it's not about the length of time, it's about the quality. So about that.
Yeah, that's something that I struggle with myself. I have been in the past a chronically poor sleeper. I had a really bad time when I was in London for the 4 years because I was kind of suffering from a lot of anxiety and stress and things like that. So my sleep was affected. So anyone that's going through that period in their life right now where they're anxious or they're worried or stressed out, your sleep is one of the first things that gets affected. So that kind of really allowed me to delve into it. And the more I researched and the more that I read, it was down to the fact sleep quality, little hacks like making sure that you're going to bed so you don't get your cortisol driven second wind, which is like what you talked about, that if you go to bed, and again, as soon as I say this and anyone that's listening, they go, oh, I've done that, because as soon as I read it and heard it the first time, I was like, oh my God, that happens to me all the time. Yeah. Effectively, if you stay up too late and you're, watching TV or you're chilling out or you're reading or you're hanging out and it's 11:15, half 11, 12 o'clock, you get a second wind where you get another burst of energy. And that's down to our body's circadian rhythm. And again, it varies depending on the time of the year and each person slightly. But normally your circadian rhythm's in that 11 p.m. slot where your body starts to produce its natural melatonin, which is basically the hormone that tells your body that you're sleepy. And what happens if you don't go to sleep at that time? You get cortisol, which is your stress hormone, which is a positive thing in a controlled environment like when you train. But if you're doing it chronically over a day where you're stressed out by your boss or your family or your friends or your lifestyle or whatever, and then if you get it at nighttime when you actually need to go to sleep and unwind, it's one of the reasons that can keep us awake. So you're staring at the ceiling until 2 a.m. So one of the things that I talked about in the book was going to bed, before that 11 p.m. mark, before the circadian rhythm second wind comes, so that you're not staring at the ceiling for till 2 or 3 a.m. And it's funny because I wouldn't have thought it made any difference. I thought, 7.5 hours or 8 hours didn't matter whether I got them from 12 to 8 or 1 to 9 or, 10 to 6 a.m. But it turns out because of the way our bodies have evolved over time with the circadian rhythm, that it actually makes a huge difference. So, and I talk about in the book to trial it for a week. I say, go to bed at your normal time at 12 o'clock, set your alarm for, 7.5 or 8 hours later, depending on your unwinding schedule, and then see how you feel in terms of waking up with energy levels in the morning, and then scale it back by an hour to 11 a.m. or to 11 p.m. or 10:30, and then set the same amount of time, sleep the same amount of time, and then see how much more energy you have. It was one of those things that until I actually tried this, and I was like, oh my God, I actually can't believe this made a difference. And then I started to apply with people that came to my online programs, and they were like, I can't believe this makes a difference. But then when you talk about you understand the circadian rhythm or melatonin production for falling asleep, it makes a lot more sense. And I talk about that in the book in terms of just giving a bit more context and background to why that happens. But it's something that has saved my life in terms of getting a good night's sleep.
So when can we get our hands on this wonderful book?
You can get it now. It's available on Amazon. So it's on Amazon right now. I was very fortunate. It hit the bestseller list within 24 hours of its release. It was very, I did a Facebook Live and I don't get very emotional, but it was very emotional because I didn't expect that kind of influx of people buying the book and feedback and things that came in. So it was incredible. And it's been on the bestseller list now since it was released last Monday before last. So it's available on Amazon. There'll be some selected bookstores that it goes into. My publishers in the UK, so it's down to a lot of them. But you can definitely get it on Amazon, on Kindle, and the physical book on Amazon right away.
Great stuff. Can I just ask you another little quick question, actually? Who would you say would have had the most influence on you growing up? Or, I know family, not family I'm talking about, kind of more like an inspirational person that you had outside of family, let's say, that you could have, because there wasn't an awful lot of, as you say, when you're at your age, GA-wise, there wasn't somebody that was doing what you were doing. So who would you have looked at to sort of pave the way almost?
It's funny because there's a couple of people that kind of come to mind on that. But my original, and I talked about it in the introduction of the book, I remember when I was 7 years old sitting in my granny's house. I was very, very close to my granny before she died, my mum's mum. And I remember I was about 7 years old watching a news channel. It was a news documentary, and there was this guy on it. He was big, he was muscly, and I remember being engrossed in everything that he said. And in my head, I just was like, oh my God, he looks like a superhero. And later I went on to figure out that guy he became one of the top grossing movie stars of all time. He became the governor of California, and it was Arnold Schwarzenegger. So it was, he was kind of the person from 7 years old. I remember watching him on TV and thinking he looked like a superhero. And I remember that time, and it seems like that was when my seed for fitness was sown. because he was a person that I looked up to. And again, his book, Total Recall, his autobiography, is one of my favorite books on just the mindset and determination that it takes to go from, you know, a European country in Austria to move into the US, where he didn't speak the language, started to learn the language himself, put himself through college, went to real estate, became the top grossing US movie star of all time, became the governor of California. And regardless of what you think of him personally, the same as most people that are high achievers, it's not down to what you think of them personally, it's what they've achieved and the messages you can take from them. But he was probably the one that kind of got me on my path initially. Now, I had loads of GA people, like my uncle Stephen played for Galway. Stephen Joyce played for Galway for years. He's the Galway minor manager now. He was a massive inspiration for me. He's mum's brother, so he was just achieving at that level. His dedication and even my commitment at underage, and when I was playing county at underage and doing all these things, he was a massive inspiration for me in terms of how to live your lifestyle to achieve what you want, because he did it in the GA sector. I just took it out of GA and made it more towards business and life. And now I'm able to give back to that sector and community because of the reach that I have. I'm very fortunate in that sense. But they're probably the two people that have molded a lot of my outlook and the people that I looked up to for the largest period of my life, I would think.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it is great. And you say, as you said, and I love what you said there about it doesn't matter what we think of what people have done. It's what, because that's the stories we live in. Don't we all live in these stories and our perceptions? And if somebody niggles us, it's usually showing us back something in ourselves that we don't like about ourselves. I do a lot of work with emotions like that too. And if we're envious of someone, we really kind of go, I hate them. It's kind of showing us someone, what is it that they have that you want?
I talked about that in the book, about how to deal when negativity comes your way, or how to deal with hate, because I've found myself, and again, it's so funny that you say that anytime I ever aimed hate or what was perceived as hate towards somebody, was normally a projection of me and how they were making me feel it, but it was on me. And a lot of it comes down to taking ownership and realizing that, okay, well, if I feel this way towards that person, what's going on within me to make me feel this way? And when you're able to catch a lot of that, and I spoke about that in the mindset section, you tend to be a lot happier. Like, it's funny because, and I spoke about this, that when you train in the gym, your muscles get stronger and you get fitter and healthier. When you start to deal with your mindset side, you're dealing with that negative feeling, you're dealing with hate. That's the workout for your mind. That's the gym for your mind, which in the gym leads to more muscle, and in your mindset leads to more happiness. And it's when you have that outlook and you're able to see that when you work past these things and realize that you take ownership and it's a projection on you, on somebody else, and you have these strategies that you can use, that happiness comes from, you know, understanding that your mind wants to be worked. And when you're able to deal with these things and put it back on you, that you've got just a much more happier outlook on everything that you see, because everything is a perspective. As you said, everything's an opinion of that moment in time, and we can change our stories we tell ourselves are very, very powerful. And if you're not happy with the way that your life is, and I've spoke about this as someone that came from that path, it's sometimes down to the stories you're telling yourself and changing that perspective, and then everything can open up because of it.
Wow, you know, it's phenomenal. I love it, and I love the way you've just incorporated it into the whole fitness. So, is there any hope for somebody like myself now? The other, the older age group, and I know I have a back issue. Actually, it's one thing I must ask you know about. I do have a disc protrusion and bulge. So I used to love Zumba dancing, and I loved, you know, I do love walking and everything. And I've been told by the doctor that the only thing that it's advisable for me, like let's say, is aqua aerobics. But is there hope for somebody like to get out of an injury and get back on track with fitness regime, do you think?
100%. Again, the context of the injury is key. Anyone that has back issues, back and neck are ones that you always have to proceed with caution, because of that area can lend itself to a lot of complications. But the key comes down to communication with your doctor on what exactly is going wrong, and then working with somebody that's able to fix that from a muscular side, from an anti-inflammatory side, because you can do a lot with nutrition in terms of reducing the inflammation in your body. So you're not eating processed foods, your emulsifiers, all these things that increase inflammation in the body, certain supplements, your apple cider vinegar that can move you from an acidic state to a more alkaline state, which can thereby reduce more inflammation. All of these things, and then having them combined, can lend somebody back to, you may not be able to ever go for the Olympics because of an issue with your back, but you can definitely do most of the things like Zumba that you love to do. It's just making sure that you have your nutrition, your training, your communication with your GP, so that everyone knows exactly what's going on, and then you have a strategy that's all geared towards fixing that.
Love it, absolutely love it. It's funny actually, because I have started to take more anti-inflammatory, like turmeric and that. I even had some in my porridge. I didn't even know you.
Brilliant.
you know, and it's like, it's actually nice.
Yeah.
I love that. Fair play to you. So do you actually, if somebody was interested in getting in touch with you, or do you see people one-on-one still?
Most of my programs, I've got 2 programs at the minute, and they're both online. So anyone that's coming through my programs, my BKF online program, which is my general fitness program, again, there's loads of different variations of it depending on each person's goals, working with me and my coaches. And then I've got my GA Lean Body program, which is again, effectively the program I wanted when I was 22, 23, was how to train in the gym, how to eat well so I could perform better for football, but also how to change my body composition so that I could look better. So they're kind of my 2 programs. The best place to get me is on my social medias, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube's all Brian Keane Fitness. Snapchat's BrianK019. My website's www.briankeenfitness.com. And you can get me on any of those platforms. They've been crazy the last week with the book, but Snapchat and Instagram are probably the best 2 ones to get me. So either if you have any questions, hit me up on DM on Instagram, or get me on Snapchat, BrianK019, or check out the Facebook page. I try and spend time where I get to reply to every comment and stuff that comes in as well, even though they've been a bit nuts the last week or so. But I try and provide as much value and help as much as I can to people that message, regardless of what the problems are. And again, I'm the first to admit when I can't help somebody or can't answer something. I'm like, well, I'm not the best person for this, but if I can help or give value in any way, I try and do that with anyone that comes through any of my channels.
Absolutely love it. I'll tell you something, I think I'll be joining one of those.
Brilliant.
The overall effect, and that's the way I think that we knew, you know, it's you're uncovering everything. There's nothing left out with the mindset now brought in, you know. It's just it's phenomenal. Fair play to you, you know.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Going to get the hurling team to win the cup this year.
Oh, fingers crossed. I think this is going to be our year. It does every year. It's going to be this one.
I don't really want. I was at the Leinster final there 2 weeks ago, and it was great to actually walk away from Croke Park with the cup this time.
Yeah, exactly. It was good. They're going well now, so I'm keeping my fingers and toes crossed.
Brian, it was a pleasure speaking to you. Really, it really was. You know, you've given us so much information and so much already there for people to go into. To say, I really enjoyed listening to your on iTunes, your podcasts, and I keep going back in because I love the mindset part of it as well as the information in relation to everything.
Yeah.
So thanks again, and I'll be putting up all the links where people can get in contact with you. And best of luck with that book, and I hope it stays a best-selling book for a long time to come.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks so much for having me on.
Not at all.